two insurances that will greatly impact you all will be general liability, and oftentimes it's referred to as GL slash or CGL. And the CGL stands for commercial general liability. Okay? So those are two insurances that, that's one insurance, commercial general liability. The other one is workman's comp. You all have heard that name, right? You probably heard that, whether it's working for somebody else or whatever. Okay, these are two different insurances that you will probably have to have, and they have two different coverages. Your general liability covers your work, and the general liability, you can think of it this way, is coverage for those things that you become negligible in during your normal course of business. Okay? So everybody understand that, okay? General liability covers those things that you are negligible in during your normal course of business. Now, when you go to take out a general liability policy, the company, the insurer, which is the insurance company, wants to know specifically what are you going to be doing and specifically what do you want coverage for. Now, let's say, for instance, you are a painter and you go and get general liability. There is a classification for all different occupations. So if you say you're a painter, you get general liability coverage for being a painter, and you're out to this personal residence, and someone says, oh, by the way, I've got this plumbing leak or electrical problem or something else, but you being a jack of all trades, you know how to fix it, okay? You go and fix that, and those people have a problem. Say you do electrical work, the house burned down, or you do plumbing work and it floods after you leave there. Do you think that general liability policy that you have for painting is going to cover that? No, it's not going to cover it, because that's not your normal course of business. So the reason I'm emphasizing this is when you go to take out your general liability, make sure that the company that is covering you knows specifically what you're going to be doing. Because if you're doing something you become negligible in and you're not paying a premium for it in that classification, then they're not going to cover you. The other thing, and two, when you buy your general liability, you have limits of liability, okay? And when I say limits of liability, that means the maximum amount of money that the company is going to pay for you being liable for the premium that you pay the company, okay? And they pay by two different ways. One is an occurrence, which means the most they're going to pay for one occurrence, one time. And then the other number, the second number is what's called an aggregate, which means the most they're going to pay for the year or the policy period. So let's say, for instance, you go out here, BB&T bank or somewhere like that, and you're going to be doing janitorial work, cleaning their business, and they tell you that you need to get general liability coverage of $1 million, $2 million. That means that they want to make sure that your coverage is going to pay up to $1 million for one occurrence and up to $2 million for the year. Everybody understand it okay? Mm-hmm. All right. And like I said, that's for the premium. Now, once they pay that max, that $1 million for that occurrence or $2 million for the year, they're not going to pay out any more money. So you just hope that if you do have some errors and you get, and they file claims against your insurance, that you don't end up using all of your coverage for that policy period. Say like this $2 million claim and you go out here and you got several claims during that year. I'm saying if you got $2 million, once that $2 million is up, then that's all the company is spending. Or if a single claim is, in that case, is more than $1 million, that $1 million is all they're gonna pay. And they're gonna rate, there are different there are different classifications, so each classification, now I say classification, job classification, they're basically, remember, this is for your work. So whatever you're doing, different jobs are gonna pay different rates for their classification. And they're gonna, but once you get into your classification, they also are gonna charge you, they're gonna look, they gotta have some kind of way of charging you even other than the classification, their exposure. And your exposure of what you're doing, they may charge you based on the square footage of the, say you have a building and you want to, say you have a furniture store or something like that and you want general liability, then they're gonna charge you based on the square footage of that building. If you're in doing work like, say, laying bricks, you're a brick mason. Well, you don't have a building there that you're in per se. So you're out there laying bricks and you want general liability for that, then they're gonna charge you based on your sales or receipts. I say receipts because that's what it is to me, but on the application it doesn't say receipts, it says sales. So if a person is laying bricks, it's how much money they bring in, and when I say bring in, how much receipts or income they're gonna bring in for that classification for the next 12 months. That's what it's all about, 12 months, okay? And let's say here, so it's receipts or sales, it's payroll, and square footage. Those are the basic three classifications that you're gonna get charged for on general liability. And also owners. If they also charge by owners. So if a person is a sole proprietorship or an individual, then they're gonna get charged one amount, wherein if a person, say, is a corporation and there are 2 or 3 people in the corporation or partnership, then you got all of these people doing work, then they're gonna add extra for that. You follow me? Because say if we're in a partnership and there are 3 partners, then all 3 of us, all probability, are going to be doing that work. And then we turn around and we says, okay, now we got 5 people that are working for us, 3 partners. So the company is going to charge for the 3 partners, plus they're going to charge for those workers, those 3 individuals doing work. And all of that, like I say, plus the classification, everything is going to, income is going to determine what the payroll is going to be. New businesses starting out are always going to pay a higher rate than businesses that have experience. And also, if you have, they look at not only your experience as far as the occupation is concerned, but your insurance experience. You know, just like Mr. Felton over there, for instance, he may say, I've been driving 10 years. Well, how long have you had driver's license? Well, I only had 3 years driver's license. So it doesn't matter that he's been driving 10. He's only had license for 3, and that's what they're gonna charge him for, is 3. Well, it's the same way with general liability. If a person has had insurance for 3 years, then that's gonna make a difference on what companies will accept them and where they can go and so forth. Normally, credit doesn't come into play with your commercial insurance, so that's a good thing. We'll talk about that a little bit in a minute. That about sums it up for general liability, unless somebody has a question they can think of. If you are going to have a business in your house and you're going to have people come in there, then the insurance company is going to want you to have a separate commercial policy, even though you're operating out of your house. You follow me? Because the homeowner's policy is for you and your family and people coming to occasionally visit you. When you have a business, all probability, you're going to have people in and out. And your homeowner's policy, that's not what it's designed for. Workman's comp. Workman's comp, remember I said general liability is for your work. Workman's comp is particularly for the employees, for your employees. and the owners of the business have the option to be included in coverage or excluded, which means you can say, well, I want coverage or I don't want coverage. All right? If you decide that you want coverage as an owner, then you're going to be paying premiums on, I think the base salary now is like $32,000 a year or more. It's around the $31,000, $32,000 figure. So that way you can't come out and say, yeah, I want workman's comp coverage, but I'm not gonna make any money this year. I'm only gonna make probably $1,000 a month. The insurance company said, no, the lowest base salary you're gonna have is gonna be that 30 or 31,000, whatever it is. So you're gonna pay it on. Because what you're doing is you're getting coverage. Now, like I said, the workman's comp cover the employees. It covers them if they any kind of losses or claims they have from the work that's work related. And by that I mean if they become disabled, if they become sick, if they get disease, they have to go to the doctor, the hospital. It'll pay death benefits if they get killed. You know, it's a real good insurance for the employer to have and for their employees, and it pays irregardless as to whose fault it was. Okay? Now, you also, in addition to the insurance, say I'm out here doing construction work, and I hurt my back, and now all of a sudden I got to go to the hospital first, and I got to go to the doctor. The workman's comp insurance is going to pay all of my hospital bill, it's going to pay all of my doctor bills, it's going to pay all of my medicine. All right? If I'm out of work for a while because of my back, then it's also going to pay me for being out of work, but it's only going to pay me around 60 to say, I would say 60% to 70% max of what I was making. Because when I was working, I was paying taxes. I was paying federal taxes, state taxes, and Social Security. Now that I'm I'm getting this workman's comp insurance, I'm not paying those taxes out of that. So that's why I get less, number one. And number two, if they pay me the same amount that I was getting paid to work, what incentive do I have to go back to work? I don't do it. Like, well, they're gonna pay me to stay home. I was making, $200 a week, and I was clearing 180 or 150 to stay to work. They're gonna give me that amount, 150, 180 to stay home. I think I'm still sick. And especially when you start talking about things like back injuries, where a chiropractor say, yeah, keep right on coming, because the chiropractor makes money every time you go there. So that's why it works that way.
Is the company required to have workman's comp? They have to pay workman's comp?
If they have,
A certain number of employees?
yeah, it's either 3 or 5.
It's 3.
Okay, it's 3, okay. Okay, so if you got at least 3 employees, they have that. And when I say that, I'm talking about 3 regular employees. All right, it's been so long there, because what I have people coming to me, they either have enough employees that they either want it, or they may be working for somebody and they don't have any employees and they gotta have workman's comp. Say you go over there to BB&T again, the bank, and you're gonna be doing janitorial work. You may say that you're gonna be doing all the work by yourself, you're not gonna have any employees. BB&T is gonna require you to have a workman's comp policy. And the reason being, they don't want you or anybody working for you to get hurt on their property, and you don't have any insurance, and now it's a claim filed against their insurance company. So that's why they require you to have the policy. And if you don't have any employees, you can purchase what's called a ghost policy. And ghost policies normally are about $850 a year. And you gotta pay all of that money at one time. And the $850, like I said, is for you know, it's a workman's comp policy, but what you're saying is you don't have any employees. Now, no matter, and it's based on payroll, remember I said payroll. So, you come into the office today and you say, I want a workman's comp policy and this is what my people are gonna be doing, or what I'm gonna be doing is job classification. Then I'm gonna look it up in my book and see what the class code is, go on the computer and rate it, or I'm going to call the rate bureau and get a job classification. But once I do that and I come back with you, I say, well, how many employees you gonna have? Well, I'm gonna have 4 employees. Well, how much you planning on paying? $25,000 all total. Then the insurance company, the computer will allow me to go ahead and rate it that way if I want to. But as soon as it goes to the insurance company, they're gonna say, wait a minute, you saying you having 4 carpenters work for you and you only gonna pay them $25,000 a year? Then they're gonna send somebody out to audit you right away. You know, you're gonna get audited. And they're gonna say, this doesn't smell good. And once they do that, they're gonna jack the premium up to what it should be. And the way they audit you is they look at your payroll, they look at your bank account, they look at your tax returns. They got all kinds of different ways that they're gonna check to see if you're being honest with what you tell them. Because remember, you are giving them an estimated payroll on the front end, but you're buying insurance coverage for the next year. So if you say you got 4 employees and you're gonna pay them $25,000 total, that's not gonna fly. As opposed to if you say I got 4 employees and I'm gonna pay them $100,000 or $80,000, and then they look at that and say, well, that makes sense, it's okay. But either way, no matter what you tell them, after 12 months, 13 months, you're gonna get audited anyway. And once you get audited, then that's when they're gonna check them out. So what some people will do is they'll think, well, I'll just lie today, and I'm gonna tell them that I'm gonna pay my employees $80,000, and I'll make my rates on that, and then later I'll sell them up with them when I get audited. And you can do that, and I tell people that's fine if you want to do that, but you need to know what your rate is per 100. Do your math, and then and set some money aside. Because right now you're starting out a new business, you may not have all that money, you know. But then if you you know, when you do get audited, you're gonna have to pay that money. You got 30 days to pay it. And your job classification, like if you got office people working, they pay a really low rate. It might be something like $2 a hundred or something. Or if a person is a brick mason or a framing carpenter or a trim carpenter, people like that, they pay some really high rates. Their rates might be like $17, $18, $19 per 100. So what that means is if you are going to pay, say you got 4 carpenters and you're going to pay them, you figure you're going to pay them $25,000 a piece, that's $100,000. Well, at $17 per 100, that means your workman's comp insurance is going to be $17,000 for a year. $17,000. That's exactly right. And that's why a lot of your construction people, when they do work for you, they charge you these rates. You go like, good grace, that guy was only here for a short period of time. A lot of that you are paying for, or should be paying for, its insurance. The workman's comp insurance and the general liability insurance. Auto insurance is broken down into personal auto and business auto. Now, many of you all may say, I got my insurance here, and I've had my insurance with Nationwide, or I've had it with Farm Bureau, and I've had this policy, whatever, for umpteen years. And you probably had what's called a personal auto policy. If you are using your auto in business, for business use now, you need to purchase what's called a business auto policy. It's more expensive. A personal auto policy means that you drive your vehicle to and from work or school, or you have it for pleasure. But as a basic rule, most people are driving to and from work, and once you get to work, you park your vehicle, and it stays there until the end of the day or the end of your shift or whatever, and then you drive it back home. That's personal auto insurance. When you take a vehicle and you're using it in the business and you're running around all during the daytime with it, that is not personal insurance. That is business. If you go out there and you have an accident with that, and the company finds out that you've been using that personal auto for business auto reasons, and you have not paid their premium, they may very well cancel that policy. Especially if you got a truck out there. You know, like say you riding around out there with a truck saying Felton's Plumbing, but now all of a sudden you done had an accident with it. You know, you're not gonna be able to convince them that you weren't in business, because you out there advertising. And when the adjuster comes and look at that, claims adjuster come and look at it, and they see on the side, on the glass, or on the door, it's got Felton Plumbing here, they say, wait a minute, this is a personal auto policy. This is a business truck.
That's why we buy magnetic signs now, right?
Well, you probably won't even think about it, you know. And even if you do that, keep in mind, if I take a magnetic sign now and I stick it right here, it's gonna be a difference in the color. The paint is, you can pull that off, but right, that little square there where that sign was, you pull that off, that paint up under there is not gonna be the same color as that paint right here. And they look for all of that stuff. Just like people when they're buying used cars, I didn't know it until a few years ago, that a lot of times people look up under the hood for the paint difference. If you're buying a new vehicle, a car that hasn't been wrecked, car, truck, whatever, the paint up under the hood, that where they painted, should be the same color as the paint on the outside of the body. But what happens is a lot of times they'll paint your vehicle like you wrecked it, and whenever they do that, that up under the hood, they don't worry about painting it again. So you got two different shades colors, and that's what people look for. Adjusters, they're trained to look for all of that kind of stuff. So the chances of you getting over on are going to be slim to none. Sometimes there are people that go out and they'll hit something, and say they damage their vehicle. They say they hit a deer, but they kept going, right? I don't have no deer. I don't see no deer. I hit him, but he ran on off into the woods. When the highway patrol come or the adjuster come, they're going to be looking for deer hair. They're going to be looking for blood on that vehicle. So if they can't find any blood on there, they can't find any deer hair, and guess what? That's not going to be a comp claim. It's going to be a collision claim. Collision claims you pay for. Comp claims you don't. And when I say don't, I mean you're still going to pay your deductible, but collision claims make your vehicle go up depending on how much money the company has to pay out. Where comprehensive claims, they don't.
What's the percentage difference in the cost of commercial versus a private auto insurance?
There again, depends on the exposure. They're gonna rate it based on the classification. You know, and two, once you get into your classification, your vehicle is gonna be rated based on commercial or it's a service. As an example, say I got a dump truck. If I'm out there just hauling, then I'm running up and down the road pretty much all the day, right? If I've got a dump truck but I install sewer lines, then I'm taking that dump truck and I'm pulling my trailer and say my backhoe or skid steer or whatever to that site, and then I go and get my materials. And then that truck's gonna be pretty much sitting there most of the day, right? So that's service. So service is not gonna be charged like I'm saying someone that's running all around during the daytime. If the exposure's not there, if you're not running around as much, then the rate is not gonna be as high. And then they start getting into things like insurance is what's called radius, which means the farthest distance that you go in one direction. So the farther you go out past 100 miles, well, some companies start at 50 miles. They'll say the radius is 0 to 50 miles, meaning you go out from where you garage. They call it garage location, which is where you stay or where you keep the vehicle. So if I might live in Littleton, but I keep my vehicle in Sanford. Well, Sanford is going to be my garage location. Well, then my 50 miles or whatever my radius is, 50 miles, 100 miles, 500 miles, it's going to be measured from Sanford. and it's the distance in one direction. You follow me? So the farther that radius is, or the greater that radius is, holding all other things equal, then the more expensive the insurance is gonna be. And of course, they look at your driving record as well. But then there are people that you will see driving commercial vehicles that will have one, and the insurance is actually cheaper than what it would have been on a personal policy. Because there are some things that they don't rate them or charge them for on commercial policies like they do on personal policies. Like people that's got DUIs and all that kind of stuff, bad driving record like that, they may actually get commercial insurance cheaper than they would if they were getting it on a personal policy.
With your business auto, you have to list all drivers that's gonna be using that vehicle for business uses.
You should do that. I've had situations wherein the employer didn't list the driver, and there's no I can't tell you how the insurance company will react to that if there is a loss. They got options. See, the insurance company is one that's got the money, and they got the law on their side because what's written in the policy. And as an example, if you have a driver and that driver had a bad driving record, you didn't check it out. You didn't check the driver. See, the insurance company, as an employer, they hold you responsible for your employees' driving record and everything about it. So say you got this person and you ask them, you say, "You have a driver's license?" "Yeah, I got it." They show you they have a driver's license. You say, "Yeah, I saw it. They had a driver's license. They said it was clean. I didn't check, but I let them drive my vehicle." They go out there and have an accident or a loss, it's gonna come back on you. And then what they're gonna do is they're gonna say, there are different things that they may do. One thing is if there's an accident, it's up to them as to whether or not they pay. And then once they pay it, they can take that person and those violations and they can add them to the policy, or they can say, "We're not gonna pay it, and you go and pay it, and we're canceling the policy effective 2 weeks from now." I've had situations here that a lady has 4 group homes that I have insured, and they're spread out in different territories. And we had a time with her driver. She'd give me driver's name, and we checked their driver. Because what I do is I tell her, "Look, you let me check out their MVR before we send them over to the insurance company. Because if I send them over to the insurance company and they check it out, they will say, 'Wait a minute, you just let anybody drive your vehicle.' But if she gives me the driver information, I can pull the MVR and then I can go back to her and say, 'Look, you don't want this person on your policy. You don't want this person driving your vehicle.'" And she had employees like that, and out of 4 locations, we had a hard time coming up with 4 drivers. And she run 3 shifts in each one of them 4 locations. But it was very difficult to come up with 4 drivers that had good driving records. I would say that probably half of the drivers she submitted to us, their license were suspended or revoked. But they had told her that they were. But see, people will do that, to get a job. It's like, well, I need to get a job. And some of them, they even show her the pictures. And oftentimes a person's license could get revoked or suspended and they not even know it. And when I say they not even know it, and I know you may say, well, that's difficult to ascertain, but the reason I'm saying that, say some of these people move a lot. You stayed at a location and you got a ticket for running a red light or whatever the violation was. You didn't pay the ticket. But at that time, you were staying in South Carolina or another state, right? So the company not the company, but the court system or the law sent a letter to that address saying, "You're supposed to be in court at such and such a date to pay this ticket," or whatever. You moved. You forgot all about that. That was in South Carolina. I moved. It's not going to follow me back to North Carolina. Well, guess what? The computer says it will. So when South Carolina, whatever state that was, sends that information to North Carolina, then North Carolina now is going to say, "Wait a minute, you got this ticket and so and so, or this violation and so and so, and you didn't take care of it. So now we're suspending or revoking your license." But you riding around thinking this good, and then all of a sudden you don't know it until you until you go out there and actually somebody checks your driving license. And then all of a sudden they say, this person's license, they've been revoked or suspended, they don't have no license. And they say, now you go and take care of this ticket and we'll reinstate them. But right now, you don't have any driver's license. And people can get into trouble like that because, and it might happen you out of town. You might be traveling like on a family trip coming up here. And it happened, you get caught out of state and you get a ticket and I've seen them confiscate people's vehicles because of insurance. You know, where a person at the insurance council had one of my best friends, his daughter had his vehicle up in Virginia or somewhere. And she got caught, he had let the insurance lapse, and they got caught up there. They took, the vehicle wasn't in her name, and it didn't have no insurance on it. They did their thing through the computer system, found out in North Carolina, no insurance on this vehicle, and this up there in Maryland or wherever, Virginia. They took the vehicle, they had put her to walking, and had a rollback come and get the vehicle and put it in storage.